We are oppressed. We are exploited. We are downtrodden. We are denied not only civil rights, but even human rights. So the only way we're going to get some of this oppression and exploitation away from us or aside from us is come together against the common enemy. Who taught you to hate the texture of your hair? Who taught you to hate the color of your skin to such extent that you bleach to get like the white man? Who taught you to hate the shape of your nose and the shape of your lips? Who taught you to hate yourself from the top of your head to the soles of your feet? Who taught you to hate your own kind? Who taught you to hate the race that you belong to? So much so that you don't want to be around each other. No, before you come asking Mr. Muhammad, does he teach hate, you should ask yourself, who taught you to hate being what God gave you? And I, for one, as a Muslim, believe that the white man is intelligent enough. If he were made to realize how black people really feel and how fed up we are without that old compromise and sweet talk. Stop sweet talking him. Tell him how you feel. Tell him what kind of hell you've been catching, and let him know that if he's not ready to clean his house up, if he's not ready to clean his house up, he shouldn't.
All right.
Wow.
By any means necessary. Today marks the 100th anniversary of the birth of the renowned Pan-Africanist, black nationalist Macolm X.
Yeah.
Well, to mark this occasion, the Universal Negro Improvement Association, the UNIA division here in Jamaica, in association with the Department of Sociology at the UWI Mona campus, will be hosting a special commemorative Macolm X lecture. And joining us to tell us more about it, we have President of the UNIA in Jamaica, Mr. Stephen Golding. Stephen,
Yes.
always look forward to you on days like this.
Yeah.
Kind of to give us the history and the context for the present. Welcome.
Good morning to you
Welcome.
both.
Well, you're talking about Macolm X this morning. I'm happy. When I heard Stephen, I'm like, yeah, he doesn't just talk about Marcus Garvey, but
Exactly.
he's also talking about, a man like Macolm X. Talk to us about this lecture and, I mean, the importance, it has to us here in Jamaica.
Well, I'm glad you started that way, Mrs. Kitty, because a lot of Jamaicans don't know that there is a connection between Marcus Garvey and Macolm X.
Yeah.
Macolm X was Malcolm Little,
Yes.
the son of Reverend Earl Little and Louise Langdon Little, who were introduced to each other by Marcus Garvey.
Oh, wow.
Right? Earl Little was a UNIA president in Nebraska and Michigan. He went with Marcus Garvey to a meeting in Montreal for the division there. The division had just started, and the secretary was Louise Langdon. Reverend Little met her there. They got married a few months later. They had 7 children, the 4th of which was Macolm. In fact, Malcolm's father was assassinated, just as Macolm was. Wow. In 1931 by a branch of the Ku Klux Klan known as the Black Legions for the work that he was doing as a UNIA president. So, Louise Langdon, of course, is from Grenada, so there's a whole Caribbean connection.
Yeah.
But certainly, Reverend Little was a huge leader. In fact, there is even a letter he wrote to President Coolidge for the pardoning of Marcus Garvey as a leader of the UNIA, but also as a union leader. So Jamaicans have to understand that, listen, we little but we tallow, and there's no major figure in the globe that we don't touch in some way.
Truly.
Dennis would know also that Macolm X, when he left the Nation of Islam, one of his last big public speeches was at the University of Oxford. And how he got to Oxford to speak was that the president of the student union at the time was a Rhodes Scholar from Jamaica named Anthony Abrahams,
Yes.
Who is actually the man who
With whom Dennis used to
launched
work.
me in
Yeah.
media,
Yes.
and DB was my first
Yes.
producer.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, and so when we look at Macolm X, I often juxtapose him alongside Martin Luther King, who many people, when you listen to this speech, and then you listen to the I Have a Dream speech, he was a very different speaker.
Yes.
You had Christianity, you had Nation of Islam. both showing the influence of religion on the civil rights movement, but in a different way.
Yeah, one more radical than the other.
Talk to us about this radical side of the civil rights movement and why Malcolm's side of it was so necessary.
Yeah.
You know, we brand it as radical. But again, you know, in Garvey's time, you had Marcus Garvey, you had W.E.B. Du Bois. Two different approaches. One was saying Garvey was a separatist, but Garvey really was just focused on improving ourselves within ourselves.
Yes.
And I think Malcolm took the same approach as compared to a Martin Luther King and the civil rights movement, which was more integrationist oriented, you know, let's live together. And again, it shows Malcolm as really the ideological heir of Marcus Garvey, because he spoke to cleaning up our own house.
Yes.
You know, coming together within ourselves, not asking anyone to give us rights, but as Garvey said, making ourselves so powerful that
they have no choice.
They have no choice, you know? So it's a different approach, and I think time has shown that it was the better approach. Because look at the civil rights movement, look at all that was done in the United States, and look where the United States has come now.
Yes.
Look at the cancel culture, look at the diversity now that is being thrown off the table. We would have really been better off sort of consolidating as a people and focusing on building up Africa. Look at what's going on in Africa now as a reaction to what's going on in the West. So Malcolm X also, you know, his evolution as a thinker, moving from the Nation of Islam, and then, you know, when he was suspended from the Nation of Islam and then he traveled to Africa, it was coming back from Africa that he spoke at Oxford. There was a complete evolution in how he was viewing the problems that were facing black people. And I think that is when he truly became a son of Garvey.
Right.
Because, you know, he had plans to take the plight of Africans in the diaspora before the United Nations, just as how Garvey, decades before, had sent delegates to the League of Nations. And he was approaching now the issues we were facing, not merely as a civil rights issue in America, but as a human rights issue globally, which is where Garvey had placed it, you know?
So talk to us now about this particular lecture and how we can be a part of it. Where will it be held, what time, and is it open to the public?
It is open to the public. We have a very special speaker coming in, Reverend Kobe Little, who is a member of the Little family. He's just returning, he's just coming from Grenada, where they've set up, they're putting up a monument for Malcolm's mother in the country of her birth. She has such an incredible story too. And coming back to the lecture, but the women in Malcolm's life, since we're celebrating his birthday, we have to mention them. I mean, the fact that his mother was institutionalized after the assassination, the murder of his father, and it took Malcolm and his siblings 30 years to get her out.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Malcolm's sister, Ella Little Collins, who wasn't the child of Louise Langdon because his father had children before marrying Louise Langdon. She really was the one who groomed Malcolm, brought him up. She was in the Nation of Islam herself. She left the Nation of Islam before Malcolm became a Sunni Muslim, just as he did, and really was the person who took over his organization after his assassination. So tonight we have Reverend Little coming to represent for the family. He's a brilliant speaker. Dr. Barnett will also be there. Interestingly enough, the Nation of Islam in Jamaica will also be there to speak, and you know, that's a very touchy relationship. So I'm looking forward to a new generation really looking back and embracing Malcolm. There have been so many documentaries that showed, you know, their involvement in his assassination and just how that went about. But we saw something similar between the Shabazz family and Minister Farrakhan a few decades ago, that reconciliation.
So it's at the University of the West Indies?
It's going to be in the multifunctional room, which is near the main library.
Right in front of the library.
Right, and it's going to be at 6 o'clock. And it is open to the public. There's no charge. We're asking everyone to come out, celebrate this milestone. I mean, 100 years.
And it's today.
And it's today.
Very well.
You know, Malcolm was assassinated a few months before his 40th birthday. You know, when we look back at some of these icons,
Yeah,
my
and you're like,
gosh,
wow, they were so young.
But they
but so
achieved so
impactful.
much.
Yeah,
You know what
yeah.
I mean?
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
amazing. I love that. And, you know, I want to encourage all the persons to try and make every effort to attend. And, you know, if you have, especially your teenagers or your youngsters, you know, take them to these events so that they can know from when they came, right? And also put into context that, you know, we're from a rich lineage and heritage of people. And so we're not just here existing just for existing sake, but we have to leave an impact and a positive one that can outlive us.
I would just want to say, sociology students, this is in your syllabus, so go out. Caribbean studies students, this is in your syllabus. Teachers make arrangements and get them. Parents, if you know you have a student studying Cape, carry them go.
Nice.
Yeah.
Because when you see these things and here, I'm telling you, it makes it all the better. I remember when I was doing history, I'm in fifth form, and the Panama Canal was a part of the syllabus. And my mom actually, we went to Panama.
Yeah.
And when I saw the canal and you saw the... And
the Jamaican influence over there.
Yeah,
the
you
fact
know?
that so many Jamaicans went over to build the canal.
Yeah.
I must also mention, big up to the community of Raytown too, because they are putting up a mural to Macolm X because of this occasion. We're going to unveil it, I think, this weekend. I'm not sure if it's Labor Day or if it's going to be on Africa Day, which is also this Sunday coming up, May 25th. I don't know of any other mural in Jamaica to Macolm X. And of course, Raytown is a fitting place to do it. We're facing the waterfront, we're facing the world.
Yeah.
So big up to the councillor there, Rosie Hamilton, and also to Makisha Silvera from TPDCO for facilitating that.
Lovely. All right. Thank you so very much, Stephen. Our very special guest, Mr. Stephen Golding, President of the UNIA Jamaica. TK is up next with the morning news.